I want to talk to you.
Is the Xbox One Microsoft's only hope to compete in a post-PC world?
Do I attract you? Do I repulse you with my crazy smile?
Here on My Next Appliance, I know a lot of you subscribe for Chip Wars, where I try my best to go over the latest NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Apple, Samsung, and Intel silicon behind all the new devices coming out. While there's a lot of justified frustration among gamers about the way Microsoft is defining its gaming platform, without getting too much into it, let me start by saying that the Xbox One was designed for a broader market, beyond just gamers. With Windows trying to invade tablets and phones, it's now officially aiming for the living room through the Xbox One. And the chip architecture tells me that the Xbox One was designed to seamlessly act as both a media device and a console. But let me save the rest of my thoughts for an upcoming TV or Gaming Wars episode. After all, Chip Wars is all about the chips. There's one underdog that should be really proud and relieved after the Xbox One keynote. AMD is publicly back in the fight with its heterogeneous power ruling over the 8th generation consoles. The PS4 and the Xbox One use the exact same cores, AMD's new Jaguar. Chip Wars 14 was mostly about the heterogeneous architecture of AMD's new accelerated processing unit. If you want to check it out, the link's below. Without rehashing too much, in that episode we focused on how AMD's APU combines serial processing and parallel processing to boost performance without requiring more power. Consoles have always been expensive, and in the past, Sony and Microsoft bought market share by pricing the hardware at a loss, hoping to make a profit in the latter stages of the product lifecycle. This is the main reason AMD turned out to be the best choice. AMD chips offer more bang for the buck. They offer great multi-threaded gaming performance at a reasonable price. While the Jaguar cores are the same, there are some architectural differences between the PS4 and Xbox One APUs. Let me know if you'd like to see a full comparison video in a future Chip Wars episode. For now, let's focus on the details we know so far about the Xbox One APU. In case you haven't seen my other videos, let me re-emphasize how big a deal this is for AMD. In the semiconductor industry, AMD has been really having a tough time lately. At the high end of the x86 market, Intel has been dominating single-threaded performance by iterating on the powerful tick-tock cycle, see Chip Wars 18. And on the low end, ARM-based processors from NVIDIA, Samsung, Qualcomm, and Apple are leading the post-PC revolution. Meanwhile, AMD has been stuck in the middle as the affordable x86 alternative to Intel. In this fight against Intel, last week in Chip Wars 19, we learned about the microarchitecture of AMD's latest chips, Bulldozer, Piledriver, and the upcoming Steamroller, basically the heavy machinery intended for high-end PCs and powerful notebooks. Jaguar is different. It's the first x86 quad-core system on a chip. The custom 8-core AMD Jaguar in the Xbox One may finally give AMD the necessary economies of scale to introduce their version of the x86 architecture into tablets and ultra-thin notebooks. For these low-power mobile devices, Jaguar could be more efficient than Intel's Atom chips and more powerful than the latest ARM Cortex-A15. Let's take a look at what Jaguar brings to the table. First, it's an incremental update to its predecessor, Bobcat. Besides these major improvements, the biggest update comes to the floating point units. Bobcat had to break up 128-bit code into chunks to be processed by the pair of 64-bit floating point units. Not really efficient when it comes to processing code. But with Jaguar, AMD upgraded to 128-bit floating point units and an extra pipeline to boost performance. Now it can even handle 256-bit AVX code if necessary. This should definitely boost the benchmarks. The second biggest update comes to the cache, the extremely fast memory that feeds the cores. While each core still has the same L1 cache, Jaguar supports more than double the L2 cache. This helps the chip complete more instructions per clock. In terms of power, at full capacity, the system should max out at 30 watts. But to keep the energy consumption and heat low, the entire chip is made on the more efficient 28nm fabrication process, and all the cores are clock-gated, meaning they can be powered down when they're not in use. All these improvements help the Jaguar boost performance without requiring more power.
Wait, I thought the Jaguar was only 4 cores. How is the 8-core version in the Xbox different?
The Xbox One actually has 2 discrete Jaguar SoCs. This way the Xbox could benefit from the low power, low noise, and low heat design of the quad-core Jaguar, but with double the fun.
Gotta be clean, gotta be mean, gotta be everything more. Why don't you love me? Why don't you
Microsoft called this a custom chip. How exactly is it custom?
It's basically a beefed-up Kabini APU, probably clocked at 1.6 GHz. The chip architecture hints that the Xbox One is a media device first. Instead of the faster GPU memory like most graphics cards have, the unified pool of system memory is 8 GB of standard PC DDR3 RAM. All this dynamic random access memory has a total bandwidth of 78 GB per second, and right now it should be pretty cheap. The most revealing spec comes from the GPU based on the Radeon Graphics Core Next architecture. After last week's reveal, a Microsoft engineer slipped and said that the GPU is capable of 768 operations per clock. This implies that the GPU has 12 compute units hitting 1.2 teraflops, if it's clocked at 800 MHz. Basically, instead of focusing on more GPU performance, Microsoft had AMD customize Jaguar with 32 MB of embedded SRAM directly on the APU. With a bandwidth of 102 GB per second, this should make up for the lack of faster video memory. As a side note, because this is an x86 architecture, the Xbox One breaks backwards compatibility with existing 360 games designed for its previous PowerPC architecture. So overall, with all these improvements, the Xbox One should outperform the 360 by at least a factor of 5. But the real story here is how Xbox One is primarily a Windows home theater PC.
Xbox, watch TV. Xbox, show fantasy.
That happens to play Xbox games.
Xbox, game.
With 3 GB of RAM probably reserved to support fast switching between movies, TV, and games.
Instant switching. Go to TV. Go to music. Watch TV.
And 10% of the GPU most likely reserved for powering up the UI.
Xbox, snap Internet Explorer. Xbox, favorites. Xbox, answer call.
The Windows kernel is definitely staking a claim on the Xbox One's chipset. From day one, Microsoft wanted to sell the Xbox to a bigger audience in order to enhance its own media platform.
Watch Sci-Fi Channel.
And maybe in the future, as AMD improves its APUs for tablets, Xbox One games will migrate to future Windows Surface devices. So Xbox One actually makes a lot of sense. Maybe not as a technologically superior console, or even as a vibrant gaming platform, but as a secret weapon against Apple and Google in the TV wars, mostly in the US. But I'll save that for the next episode in the TV Wars series. Here's a big thanks to all the latest subscribers. Stay tuned because in the next Chip Wars episode, I hope to put the Xbox One and the PS4 against each other to highlight their strengths and weaknesses. And in the next episode of Gaming Wars, I'd like to compare the philosophy behind the current gaming platforms. And please remember to like and comment if you like the technical information in Chip Wars. Let me say I'm really sorry I didn't respond this past week. I've been sick, and because of the US holiday weekend, I've also had to work longer shifts at the store. But your feedback is really important to me. I always read every comment. Not only does it help me figure out which video to make next, but to be honest, it also helps boost the search rankings of each video, and I could really use your help promoting the channel. I would absolutely love to make videos full-time one day, but it won't happen without your help. And if you'd like to see a history of the console wars, click the links below to see a full history starting with the Atari Magnavox wars all the way up until today.